Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. And 我可能先從廣東話開始啦。咁好多謝Kenny 你咁快就接受我哋今日嘅採訪啦，都好多謝你寫嗰本關於選擇嘅書啦，同埋你喺 Melo 嘅 group chat 入邊又 share 好多關於馮唐啊或者其他嘅 video 都好幫到我哋從另外一個角度去諗嘢啦。咁對於我哋呢家嘅年輕人嚟講，其實都有唔少嘅迷茫同埋困惑。所以面對翻疫情啊，或者科技各種改變咧，選擇呢本書就好幫到我哋做唔同嘅選擇。咁第一條問題咧就係好好奇，因為 Kenny 你有一個好跨界嘅人生啦，從律師啦到 consulting 啦，跟住呢家 Two Sigma 其實都係不停咁樣去突破自己嘅舒適區，所以就好好奇想問下你係做每一次嘅選擇之前係點樣去衡量，或者係克服翻自己內心嘅恐懼嘅咧？
好，不如我英文啦，好嗎？Thank you so much
嗯
for
，Yeah,
that
sure.
opportunity. It sounded like you're actually pitching my book. So thank you for this. I don't know how you get access to my book though. I actually did not authorize having the books being sold in the US. So
Oh,
I only authorized the book to be sold in China. It became quite a popular book in China, but I didn't want it to be too high profile. So I'm quite glad that you were able to read it or at least get access to it.
yeah. Actually, I got access online. There's this WeChat online book platform where you can pay a small fee and you just get access to the book, and it's super convenient. For the
Okay.
physical copy, I think I might have to wait until when I'm back in China or
Well,
Hong
if you
Kong.
guys are interested, I could send you physical copies. So just message me who wants physical copies. I can send some to you.
That'd be
You
Oh,
wonderful.
thank
yeah,
you. Yeah.
happy to. Because there's the story behind the book and maybe also linked to your question is
Yeah.
um so when I left NOAA, so they were saying that you have a unique journey. Could you write a book? Look, I was born and raised in Hong Kong, so my Chinese is only half baked. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really couldn't write a book in Chinese. I could speak some Mandarin, I could run a company in China, but not write a book. But the publisher is actually Zhongxin. And some of you may know Zhongxin is the largest publisher in China. So they have really high standard and a good
Yeah.
quality. So I was convinced that they could do a good job. And so they assigned an editor to me. And they're really passionate. They said, look, you should share your experience in a first voice. I first rejected them. I said, well, can you interview me? I'm just going to do 10 interviews and you could just do interviews. But they said that,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually good to um, share in a very authentic way your journey. And so I actually agreed. So it took me actually 2 years to write. I spent all weekends writing it. It's about 160,000 words, and so I wrote all of it. But the editor probably corrected 30% of it. So they were correcting my Chinese. Um,
Yeah.
but the simple answer to this is writing a book is also one of the things that I felt like it's kind of out of my comfort zone. But it's not a complete crazy risk-taking endeavor, right? So, which is
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in my book. I said, look, many people would say to you, "Oh, you should uh, try and be outside of your comfort zone and take risk." I think it's yes, take risk, but in a very strategic, thoughtful way, right? Because otherwise, then
Yeah.
you'll be in investing. It means you're naked in a sense that you're not really thoughtful around what risk you take. So my path is I started in Hong Kong. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. Then I went to Canada for my high school, as with many Hong Kong kids. That's a time when all of us would go somewhere else for high school. Then I went to college in the US and the UK. Then I thought I want to find something that is different from my class because everyone is going into investment banking will be, and so I said, well, why don't I do law? Um, Now, law is not exactly different, but at least for a person with a background in finance, immediately after finance, I did a law degree. I think that's something a bit more unique. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
then as you know, you guys may know, so I was a lawyer in the US. for 3 years. And that was the time that I started writing the first wave. And this is the point I made in the book, which is you have to, I read a lot about macro trends because you have to understand where the big trends are so that you at least find yourself making bets that are right for you. So back then, the first big trend was Chinese state-owned companies like China Mobile, PetroChina getting listed in the US. And so I started as a corporate attorney, so a lawyer in the US, to basically help Chinese company get listed in New York or NASDAQ, right? And so that was my first taste as a young new person to learn the biggest deal, the toughest way of getting things structured. And you learn a lot from that. So that was the first wave, which is the state-owned companies, the biggest state-owned companies getting publicly listed in the US. Then after that, I said, look, I was 24, 25. I said, look, that was .com #1. So I said, well, why don't I try something? Because, in your 20s, I think that your opportunity cost is actually not that high. And so I created a website called IceRed. I think you guys are too young, but my generation, a lot of people have heard of it. It's essentially, my wife would say that I'm a bit ahead of my time. I'm not as smart as Mark Zuckerberg, and so it's not as big as Facebook. But it's actually this is the same concept, which is I started with basically a alumni club for Oxbridge and Ivy League. And so it's an online platform for Oxbridge and Ivy League, and it became really popular for professionals. But that period, I learned also that as a 25, 26-year-old, I did not know how to run a company. It was really popular. It was the most popular website in Hong Kong and Singapore. But I honestly did not know how to run it, and so I basically sold it to the popular chat platform Lindang now.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Lindang, yes.
So Lindang bought it.
Wow.
So it was the precursor to Lindang. So Lindang, before Lindang, it was Discussion Board. Discussion Board was a company that bought IceRed in 2004. So
how did you? Sorry.
No, go ahead, Victor.
I was wondering how you made that decision to sell your company, because that must have been it was your baby for so long.
Honestly, had I kept it for another, let's say 6 years, it would have been the next really huge. But I mean, this is of course me saying it. 20 as you say, hindsight is always 2020. But I sold it also because I knew my deficiency. I had no idea how to run a company. I was getting sued almost every month because the message board was the first form of message board was basically free flow of information. So people write all kinds of different defamatory stuff on the website.
So it's not filtered?
No, so which is a good question. So if you look at the internet law on freedom of speech in Hong Kong, the first precedent is actually set by us, IceRed versus Silk Road, because we were sued.
That's hilarious.
And so imagine I was a 25-year-old, I think, and this big company sued us because they want to find out who wrote on one of the messages on the message board that defamed them. And so we responded by saying, no, we can't give you the IP address. And so they went to the court and sued us to get the IP address. And through that, it defined the internet freedom of speech in Hong Kong. So we basically, the law now says, if you're a platform provider like Lindang, and if there is a complaint about the content, you as a platform provider would have to respond within a reasonable time frame. Otherwise, you'll be liable. Right? So that's law.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, so I was saying it is a very pioneering effort at the time because in Hong Kong, there wasn't Facebook or it wasn't as popular. So it's more or less like what people first approached the internet to be.
Well, if you look back from now, you could say it's pioneering. But when you're like a 25-year-old, you're scared. You're like
Yeah.
you get a lawsuit literally once every month from different companies. So the first thought that went through my mind is I need to learn how to run a business, and which company would give me the best education, learning of how to run a business. So McKinsey, right? Now, as I mentioned in my book, when you look back, the dots seem to connect quite well. But when you're looking forward from as a 25-year-old, you're back then my parents were like, what the hell are you doing? You've got a degree from Oxford and Wharton. You had a great job. You gave all of that away to be sued on a monthly basis. I didn't get paid properly. I didn't even mention my lawyer's salary was great, but then when I started IceRed, I was paid nothing. I was actually an expat with the US law firm. So when I went to Hong Kong, when they sent me to Hong Kong, they gave me like a big apartment in Busan. So I basically telling my parents, I'm gonna give all that up. I'll come and live with you and start a gossip website. So
I mean,
that's
that's
like hard.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Victor.
Oh, I mean, I was just like navigating that family and cultural expectation. I think it's such a common theme in, I'm sure a lot of the participants here today are feeling, right? Like when you want to make an unconventional career choice, how do you push back on that tension from your family? Do you want to push back? Because I'm sure they came from an area where it is logical, every family wants their kid to be Ping Bo Ting Wan, right? So what advice, exactly, would you say to that?
I think it's not black and white. I'm not saying that what I did with IceRed was heroic, but I really appreciated that time. I learned a lot from it. But at the same time, I think for all of you in this audience, I would not recommend believing that you could found something and be the next Mark Zuckerberg. I think you should still give your 200% effort when you are in the next 15 years. That would define who you are. And you should try everything, right? So I think I did not regret a bit about building a website like this. People still talk about it now, right? My friends are like, can you restart IceRed? So that experience is precious, and I learned so much from it. But at the same time, each step you should calculate the risk reward. And that's what I meant by being very strategic in what you choose. Because some would say, I'm going to just stick it out and work with it and see where we are. As I mentioned, had I stayed with IceRed, it may become the next Facebook. It could be. But I also think the probability extremely low, right? So, and I had all of this access. I was, I got an interview with McKinsey. I have access. I think I made a calculated choice on spending. I basically gave myself 3 years to try IceRed. I basically stopped in, I think it was year 2, believing that it's not going to be able to scale, and decide that's it. I'm going to do something else, right? As I said, the dots would not connect when you are making it.
Yeah, for sure.
But the only thing that really is consistent over time is that I've been conscious in being strategic about my choice. That's why you need to always, I mean, I don't know what subjects you guys do, but always understand the broader macro trends. Like back then, I was riding a wave of Hong Kong students being the greatest East meets West candidate. So I was lucky. I got an offer from McKinsey because they thought, oh, this guy who's studied at Beida, so manner is okay. Hong Kong, great, seems to have great educational background. Tried to be an entrepreneur. I was a lawyer. So all of that combined into them saying, hey, you're a good candidate. Why don't you come join us? So that was the strategic choice. I think you have to make a call now where you want to be, and I can comment on that a bit later. But yeah, so maybe that's basically just a good quick background around how I make choices early on in my career.
I mean, that's amazing. Like the opportunity cost you're saying, being strategic about where you are. I think so many of us, right? I know Wendy is a sophomore in on the West Coast, Jenny is in the Central. We're all overseas where, it seems like the pay and the prestige of staying here or, in the West would be very high, right? Should we have to make that, we're making that decision of when we're coming back home to build something meaningful, try out establishing our career locally in Hong Kong or Asia, or staying here. The macroeconomic trend, as you've said, has changed drastically in the last 20 years. With how the world has changed, what would you say to someone, that all of us, I'm sure, standing at this same crossroad? What recommendation would you give us, and how should we go about making that decision?
So I assume all of you are still studying in university or about to graduate. Is that right? Or...
I'm working. I work at EY in New York. I'm a consultant as well, so I'm super interested in your experience. And I had to hop on when Wendy was telling me about you.
So I think you're in a good place, Victor. I still recommend. So the broader trend. You start with that, and then we could discuss more around what the potential next steps could be. Is that yes, we are witnessing a transitioning of the superpower. Okay. I think the US would still be a leading superpower for some time to come, right? So of all the news that you hear, oh, China is rising, I think that's very true. I do think that there's an acceleration of the transition, but even then, it would still take a long time. I was just actually having a breakfast with a close friend, and she was like, "Look at the British Empire. How long did it take for the UK to not matter? I think the UK still matters quite a lot, right? And so I don't think there should any perception around, oh, now I need to be in China only or in Asia only. I think you need to recognize that the bulk of the greatest talent capital companies are still in the US. And so if you have a chance to start your career, you always start in the area in an area where you could learn the most, right? And you could gain the best network and great experiences. So I would recommend anyone that can get an offer with a great firm that you could learn from and base yourself either in New York, in San Francisco, LA, or in London, because that's where you get the most from the first, let's say, 5 years of your job, right? So I started myself in New York as a corporate attorney. Now, is it going to be easy? I think it's going to be tougher because they would say, oh, I'm sure there's some subtle anti-Asian thing going on, right?
Yes, I experienced it. Yeah, I understand.
And people are going to be less open, but that's okay. I think the tougher it gets, the better you will be in learning to tough it out. And I always call it, when you get to 35 and you run a team, and if you don't have any street credibility, that means that, if you haven't done it, if you haven't been through really tough times, you don't have the right to run a team. Your team would not follow. So by the time you're 35, which I assume is going to be 12, 15 years later, right? You need to say, I've been there, done that. I've seen it all, right? That's why I say your next 10 years is about pushing yourself to get as much credibility on your chest and on your shoulder, and be able to say, I've done it. Now, then you could find where it's most suited for you to really leverage that foundation. And I would say Asia is probably it, right? So that's why, there's a friend of mine, son, who just graduated from Penn, and he was choosing between an offer from Goldman, Philadelphia, or Hong Kong, JP Morgan. I said, for sure, Goldman, Philadelphia, even though it's not New York, but you get to be in the mothership. You get to see how big deals get done. You get to know how the main mothership works. Then you could come back. You can always come back with a credential, right? And you'll be even more valuable with that credential.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
that's wonderful insight because I feel like a lot of people studying overseas now and they do see, oh, if I come back to Hong Kong, maybe it'd be easier. But I think the point that Kenny mentioned about gaining that experience overseas, like having that learning curve, overcoming it, and then coming back would really give you a huge boost, not only personally, but also in terms of your growth and character or in skills. So that's
So by
really
the way,
helpful.
on the anti-Asian vibe and the subtle racism, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I would say actually learn from it, embrace it. People at the very core, if they get to know you, they're not racist. Only through perceptions they're racist. So try and build your skill set in engaging with people that seems to be subtly racist. And you build such an ability to, I mean, you're gonna be world citizen the rest of your life. So it's not just race that's going to be leading to prejudices. It could be anything. It could be, oh, you look young, so I'm gonna be prejudicial against people that look young. Oh, you're female, right? So you don't know anything. So there are a lot of these perceptions that you need to deal with. And if you find a way to not take everything personally and try and engage, I bet you 95% of the time, the person that you feel like, oh, you're such a racist, is actually a good person inside. So try and find that, and you'll be a lot more accepting in any situation. The second thing is, I think it only helps you in being a great leader, to be able to deal with any kind of attacks and stress, and be able to have great EQ to deal with it. Yeah, so this, think of it as a learning ground. If you come to Hong Kong, of course, the easy is 自己地方. But as I said, when you're like 24, why lead in such an easy life? There's nothing interesting with it. And
Yeah,
but
I feel like
at the end of it, now I run a hedge fund. As a hedge fund, almost all the top hedge funds are run by white Jewish guys,
Oh, really? Wow.
right?
yeah.
So I'm part of the global management committee. There are like 6 guys, 5 white guys and an Asian. That's me, right? So I've learned all my life to be like, when I was in China, people make fun of my Mandarin, right? So I'm like, I couldn't care less. I know how to deal with things, and people would see through it and eventually be very accepting. In China, when I started, people make fun of my accent. One of the So I went to Beida for my Chinese. So supposedly I learned Chinese. But then when I started in Hong Kong, I started serving the Taiwan clients. The Taiwan clients, I keep using English for the Taiwan client. The Taiwan client, why are you speaking English to me? You and I are both Chinese. And I was like, my accent is very honky. And she was like, there were like 20 dialects in China. I speak Taiwanese accent. This guy in Guangzhou will likely have like quite Cantonese accent. So they don't care, like just speak. And so I started learning that, oh, that's right, actually. My honky accent is just one of the main accents. If you speak to a Taiwanese, if you use a Taiwanese that goes to China, they would recognize right away that that's a Taiwan person because they have this strong Taiwanese accent, right? Jenny is agreeing with me, right? So then my point is that you have a perception that you have this deficiency of being a minority, when in fact you're just one of many types. Yeah.
So would you say, given these dynamics, or maybe in Asian American terms, that would be like bamboo ceiling or glass ceiling for others. So when it comes to navigating these, do you think having a positive mentality and not seeing the need to just blend in, but keeping your own individuality is also important?
I think both, right? So
Mhm.
I think we need to recognize that there is a mainstream American culture, and that I would recommend that you try and embrace that as much as you can. Because
Yeah.
just like someone coming to Hong Kong, if there's an expat that comes to Hong Kong that never tries to be part of the Hong Kong culture, then you're asking someone to be kind of excluding you, because that's the mainstream, right? Imagine like a Guilo in Hong Kong. If that Guilo tells you, oh, I watch TVB all the time, you'd be like, wow, I want to be friends with you. You're so fun, right?
Which show,
Yeah.
right?
Right? I'm like, if there's a Guido that speaks Cantonese to you, it shows that you're trying to make an effort to be part of that community that you're part of. And so in the US, no one is going to be asking you, oh, Wendy, why don't you play American football?
Yeah.
No. But at least go to a game, try and be part of the NBA. You go watch a game or something, right? And be part of the culture, and watch SNL on the weekend or something. Then people would say, oh, you're trying to be part of it. Now, of course, we're not saying you're going to give up all your individuality, but I also hope that you'd be surprised at how you would evolve as a person, right? You may find, oh, actually, I like the American culture for part of it. I actually like part of this. And so it makes you a better person that way, right? Because you have your great Hong Kong background, but you're also accepting new things, right? Now, by the way, you also form your own views, right? So by the way, I hate New York. I hate New York City. Even now, I hate New York
Same.
City. I'm in London now. I love London. And so, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't go back, but also I make an informed choice because I've tried New York for so many years. And I can honestly say I can tell you why I hate it.
Mhm.
Right? But it's not because I have a perception. It's because I've done literally 20 years of New York.
Mhm.
So you have to have that, again, street credibility to try it, to know what you like, and to also be able to articulate why you don't like it.
Yeah, I think that really makes a lot of sense. If you have never tried it, then you aren't really qualified to say that you not like
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
No.
but when you have really gone through it, experienced it, then you can make your own choice. And oh yeah, another part that I'm interested in is that like in your time auction interview, you mentioned that
I'll
in
truly love
law.
my videos.
Yeah, no, they were actually fun to watch. And
Okay.
yeah, you mentioned how law helped you have philosophical mindset. And actually, I really like humanities and philosophy as well. So would you say that having an interest or a background in humanities would be also helpful in today's world, given that AI is on the rise and there's a lot of emphasis on hard skills, both technical or like machine learning, etc. And would you say having this multidisciplinary thinking still be important?
It's funny you asked that because the reason why I'm in London is I just brought 15 CEOs to be in Oxford for a PPE program.
Oh,
And so have you heard of the PPE program in Oxford?
yes. Yeah, it's
Yes.
super famous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I did law at Oxford, and I thought it was amazing because the law at Oxford was actually called jurisprudence. So it's not
Right.
actually study of law as a profession; it's a study of legal philosophy. And
Mhm.
so I loved it, and I've always thought about finding ways to be back. And so we organized a weekend retreat with a few famous PPE professors, so politics, philosophy, and economics. And the main theme was exactly what you said, which is in this crazy world where um, almost every day there's some new macro change. I think you need to kind of step back and understand the core philosophy and fundamentals about the world so that you can make proper judgments. And so that's why this program is quite unique. And all these CEOs are like, wow, this is a important step back in a crazy world like this. Now, in the age of AI, then vertical expertise is not as important. So access to knowledge is almost free. The real skill set is in interpretation and cross-functional thinking, right? And so I think in university you start to get that too, right? You can be a certain vertical in finance, in computer science, in right, but then you also need to have a broader base of understanding, which that's why I think there's a big comeback of the liberal arts education. I think if you tell me in 5 years' time you're still going to study coding, then I think you're wasting time, right? But if you're telling me that I'm going to have my degree in finance, but also at the same time I'm doing a philosophy degree or a history degree, then I think it's great because you need to have both views.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
We hear about the T model a lot. So the T being the breadth in how you are as a person, and then the bottom part of the T is the depth. And early on in your career, that's something I learned from one of the partners here at UI is how do you balance that breadth and depth? Is how you sort of establish your personal brand in a consulting space. And you mentioned this in your book. I know you have a hard stop, but you mentioned this personal brand in your book.
I can do another 10 minutes, maybe. Is that okay? Yeah.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the Houbei and the personal brand is something so important early on in your career. And obviously, you're now the CEO of one of the most respected hedge funds in the world. We were just wondering, can you let us in a little bit of the secret sauce? When you see like a young analyst or an associate, what is something that they do, big or small, that personally catches your eye and go, wow, that person I know is really trying or going places?
First of all, I'm not trying to be fake humble. I do think that I don't think IQ would have to play an outsized role in this. I think a lot of it is if you I think I mentioned this in the book. McKinsey three CEOs ago, a great CEO of McKinsey, Ian Davis, mentioned this, which is the RQ, IQ, EQ concept. That McKinsey could be seen as great IQ, but EQ, of course, we all know what this is, but RQ is relationship, right? And relationship is not just, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. It's how you interact with the people that you work with. I remember that I knew that there were so many people way smarter than me at McKinsey, you can imagine. And I said, look, the only way I could differentiate is by being extremely hardworking in a few areas, right? So you pick a space. So I pick financial services because I believe that that's where you could make the most impact, because these are banks and big asset managers I was serving. So through that sector, I built a brand by taking on the hardest challenge, the toughest job, and just be very positive and just try and get things done in the best way for clients, right? So there's no secret sauce. It's just, now people say, oh, it's just working hard. Yeah, it's working hard, but also being very accepting on anything that comes to you, right? That's the EQ part. And always thinking the best of the person that gave it to you. Now, if the person that gave you a shitty job, they may say, oh, wow, this guy is trying to screw me. That could be one reaction. Another reaction is, well, he or she is giving you a chance to shine, right? I remember I mentioned this book where I was like a 13-month-old associate, and I was asked to be the EM engagement manager for a 4-person career team. Now, you all know Korean studies are extremely tough because they smoke, they curse, they work 20 hours a day. And so, by the way, in McKinsey, the usual time frame is for an associate to be a EM, engagement manager, at year 2. So it's literally a year early. And the 4 associates that work under me, 2 of them are actually a lot more senior than me, right? So, but clearly the bank that we serve in Korea is a tough client, and so nobody wants the job. I jumped at it and said, yep, why not? Nothing, if this doesn't kill me, I'm going to learn from it, right? And so you quickly build a reputation of just getting things done. And if you were, now, you can imagine, this is common logic. If you are a partner, would you keep engaging or hiring someone who is extremely smart but choosy on what they do? And, oh, maybe this is not for me. I'm really smart, so this is beneath me. Or someone who is not smart, not as smart, but we're very hardworking. Now, having said all that, I'm not saying that, oh, you can be dumb and be able to work on a place like McKinsey or whatever. But I don't think anything that we do in front of us needs rocket science.
Yeah.
I think all of us are already way beyond what's needed to perform at what we want to do. And it's just a matter of how we apply our time and effort, right? Because all of us would have a perception of, oh, this guy has done so well, he must be super smart. Honestly, after my 30-year career, I've seen too many people that claim to be crazy smart. The real successful ones are not those that are 180 IQ. Yeah.
So would you say determination, like having an open mind and being willing to take on new challenges that might not be familiar to you,
So
but after that learn?
one thing I did a lot was thinking ahead of my boss, right? So that I have my own control. That's something that I think it's easier said than done, right? So when I was like an associate, I would for sure think from the client perspective and help my partner and EM think about what's needed to be done. And I tell them that's what I believe what's needed to be done. So people would say when people see me in McKinsey, they're like, well, you seem really relaxed because you're running a lot of things. But my relaxation comes from the fact that I control what I do, not my partner or EM, because I think ahead of them and I help them problem solve on what the client needs. And surprisingly, then the partner and EM would say, oh, wow, I didn't know that we could serve clients that way. Great on you. So it has an exponential effect. But that is driven by the fact that I want to be lazy. I actually don't want to work by them giving me too much work. So I think ahead of them so that I tell them what I need to do, right? But it's cheeky, but at the same time, it asks a lot more of you to be thoughtful, but it allows you control. Right. And that's how I approach many things. So Victor, go ahead.
No, I was just going to comment. That's the strategy playing out. Like that's you doing above and beyond really what's asked of you, right? Like it's no, I was just I thought that was really amazing.
But honestly, I'm being very honest with you. I just don't want to work on a day-to-day basis by someone telling me you do 10 things. It's so demoralizing. So I want to be lazy. So that's why I said, okay, well, let me think hard. What would the client want? Okay, if that's the client, then okay, I think you need to do A, B, and C. What do you think? Now, I'll tell you, 8 out of 10 times, the EM would not have thought about this. And so in a way, you're a step ahead of your manager. But it was really me just being lazy. I was like, okay, I'm 28-year-old. I don't want to be told by some 30-year-old what to do on a day-to-day basis,
Actually, that's also your entrepreneurial mindset playing out. Having founded IceRed, and I feel like it's also you trying to innovate in your job and thinking ahead for your client and coming up with different solutions. Actually, that is exactly what drives a company forward. I guess because if employees don't innovate and they just do what they're told to, then it's just going to be stagnant.
I think more likely than not. Now, I think there will be companies that say, "Oh, don't just do whatever you're told," right? But I think more likely than not, and you can't do too much crazy things. You have to know your company's culture and where you can innovate. So, but more likely than not, if you try and be that person, try and find new ways of doing things, and if you know what we call the true north, right? So McKinsey, the true north is serving the clients well, right? For Two Sigma, the true north is making sure that we deliver alpha for our clients. If you understand that and you solve from that point onwards, from that point, then you're always doing the right thing because you're not solving for your own personal interest. You're not solving to kiss your ass's butt, but you're mainly solving for the true north. So you have to figure out what is it that's in the best interest of everyone, right? Then you could be creative because it pushes you to understand fully what is the true north. Like for McKinsey is serving the best clients in the best way, right? And then if this client is in front of you, then you say, well, how can I, as a little associate, serve that company the best way I can, right? And that solves a lot of things.
Yeah, so like always keeping your company's culture in mind, the motto and the overall vision. And I think, yeah, like all that you've shared has been super, super helpful. And does Victor or Jenny has anything to add?
Sorry,
I just wanted to say we'll be playing those advice in our head for a while. I mean, personally for me, it's super applicable, and I'm sure for many in the call as well. Jenny,
Yeah, I have a question about because you mentioned a lot, you build your personal brand and you try to figure out your uniqueness in your college, and you transitioned from a degree in finance to law school. And because now I'm a second year student, and in Chicago, we have a lot of students who want to do investment banking or consulting or go to law school. But for me personally, be very, very honest, I don't know what I want to do in the future. And I tried a little bit internship in legal services, also in investment banking, but I find out maybe they're not the thing for me. So do you
Yeah.
have any advice that you would give to a college student who maybe didn't have a lot of idea about their future, and what's the best strategy to play out in their career?
Well, first of all, Chicago is a great school, so I wouldn't worry about your future too much. When I was at your age, I think I've done like one internship, so I was like a salesperson for Lane Crawford, and that was it. So I wouldn't worry too much. The only quote unquote advice I would give to you is to start with something that would provide you the best exposure and training, and put a lot of effort to it to learn what they do. Don't write things off immediately. Like I said about New York, right? So you have to learn about this stuff before you can say, I don't like it. And how do you learn about this stuff is to be 100% at it. Let's say you don't get the best investment banking job, like at Goldman. You get a okay banking job at Barclays. No, nothing against Barclays, but it's not Goldman. But let's assume that, or somewhere, right? Just learn to love it. My wife used to say this. I'm really great at now, and like brainwashing myself. Whatever I get, I always believe this is the best in the world. And and one more thing, I will always, not only I believe it's the best in the world, I also will make it even better. Right, whatever I get. So I remember I had when I was like a early consultant. So my wife and I bought a second-hand car. This is like a Audi A4 third hand. And I looked at it and said, wow, this is the best car I can imagine. Now, if I go back, that car actually had no air conditioning. Imagine not having air conditioning in Hong Kong. But I remember I brainwashed myself so much that I went, wow, this is such a unique classic car. I'm enjoying it so much, right? And I started trying to find ways to improve on it and all of that. But each stage in your life, you just know that if you use that attitude and brainwash yourself into loving what you do so much, that you will always find ways to thrive in whatever role, and you build your reputation, right? Like even in the shittiest place, I would say, okay, well, even if it's like a shit, I will make sure it smells good. Right? And that the attitude would carry you through anything. I remember I left McKinsey to run NOAA, right? NOAA. Do you guys know
Right.
NOAA?
Yeah,
Heard of it.
it's like a
Yeah.
wealth management company.
So
Very
NOAA
famous.
it's a great firm. It's a big firm. It's one of the largest wealth firm. But people were like, "Oh, you're from this." I was a senior partner running the whole FIG practice in Asia, and McKinsey. I started running this 土豪公司, right? And if you go back a few of my interviews for NOAA, I was saying this is the best company you could think of in China. I'll tell you why, and I'll help you build it. The branding I used was, this is going to be the next UBS of China. My wife was like, you are out of your mind. It's like a dingy little shitty place. You know what happened? When I got to NOAA, the market cap was 800 million. When I left NOAA, you can check this, 2019, the market cap was 5 billion US.
Wow.
Now, you have to believe in it, but it's not just talk. You believe in it so much that you find ways to make sure you get there. Now, you may not be always reach 100%. But if you believe in it so much and you try and work towards what you believe in, then you get halfway through, or maybe a quarter, but at least there's going to be improvement, right? But then, people look at me like, oh wow, I'm sure when I took on the role of NOAA, 2014, people were like, oh, where is this like shitty company Kenny is going into? But when I left, so the Asia private banker wrote a piece about me leaving NOAA, and this is now the UBS of China. This is the largest private wealth in China. People will repeat what you say if you repeat it, believe in it, and you have a personal aura if you work hard at it. So you can't just it can't just be talk. You have to work hard with it. But if you believe in it so much that people would like, oh, maybe I should look at it differently. Like my shitty Audi A4. I believe in it so much that, oh, hey guys, that's an antique. Maybe that people should appreciate differently. But honestly, it's a shitty car. But I would say no, you just don't know how to appreciate it. Right. And
That's
so
amazing.
that Jenny, that's what I mean, right? When you get whatever offer you get, just treat it the way that you would treat like this is the best offer you could get. And you do the best you can. I'm sure your brand would build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will keep this in mind. It's so helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenny. And I know we're running over time, so I'll just thank you so much for all your advice today. Like, I especially appreciate the parts about keeping an open mind, taking on new challenges, and not just having IQ, but also having that AQ, like mindset towards adversity, relationships, and all that would be super helpful for us in the future in terms of building our personal brand and also believing that what we do will be great in the future and working towards it. So I think all these will help us not only in our careers, but also in our personal relationships and growth too.
Well, thank you for inviting. If any one of you wants my book physical copy, I can autograph it. Just ask Christy, send your name and address, and Christy will send you a copy. Okay?
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Kenny,
for your
for your
time.
time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Really
Okay.
appreciate it.